All right, so it's 7 o'clock on Monday, November 6, 2017, and I'll call the meeting to order. And the first thing we'll do is stand for a moment of silent reflection. Is there any declaration of your interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. So for this meeting, we just have one timed event, and that's at 7:05, and we have Robert Foster here for our financial statement, the draft for 2016. Just before we continue on, I do have a certificate of appreciation presented to Township of Adelaide Metcalfe in recognition of our contribution to the 2017 Middlesex County Flying Match. So that'll be hung up on the entrance there. And I also just want to, at this time, thank all the people that were involved in the Remembrance Day ceremony or service that happened on Sunday. I know, Nick, you were part of that committee. And
actually, they postponed the meeting to the next day, and I had Blue Water Recycling that evening, so I didn't do anything there.
Yeah.
No, it was very well done.
All right. So we'll move into our minutes of our previous meeting, which was October 16th, 2017. If we have a mover and a seconder for that. Councilor Hendricks and Councilor McKinnon. Is there any errors or omissions for those minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Going into our correspondence. The first one is from AMO, and it's the Cannabis Bill 174. Item number 2, also from AMO, it's the Ontario West Conference, and that's being held on November 24th, 2017. Councilor Hendricks?
I'd be interested in that.
Do I have to register for that, or is that already? Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else?
I'm debating whether I have to work or not, but I'll get back to Kathy in lots of time for registration.
Okay, item number 3, also from AMO, it's the watch file of November 2nd, 2017. Item number 4 from OGRA, and it's the board highlights from September. Item number 5 is from the Ministry of Finance, and it's the cannabis update. Item number 6 is from the City of Niagara Falls, and it's the invitation for the OSUM 2018 conference. Item number, where are we here? 7, it's from 501, it's the notice of repairs. Item number 8 is from the Thames Valley District School Board, and it's their 2017 inaugural meeting. Item number 9 is from SWIFT, and it's stating that Middlesex County has joined the SWIFT group. And that's on that, I'll just make some notes on that. So the agreement that was negotiated between county staff and SWIFT was brought back to County Council. And in that agreement, it's very different compared to all the other agreements that all the rest of the counties have. So in that press release, it states that there's approximately over $700,000 of contribution to that project. Those funds will not be transferred to SWIFT until a number of boxes are checked off. So they're going to make sure that the staff is going to make sure that the areas that are needing to have that fiber or the connectivity in the county is going to be the first ones to get it. So it's not going to be based on the SWIFT formula as where those areas are. It's going to be decided from Middlesex County where those areas are needed. So that's the large difference in comparison. So that agreement and the PowerPoint along with it is from on our previous county council agenda, so you can see what that agreement says. So it's very different. So in that, in the news release there, it says it's committed $784,000 of capital funding. However, that's not money that's just given over. It's going to be probably some time before those funds are transferred over, if at all, because you never know if they might not check those boxes off.
Right.
So, yeah. Councilor McKinnon?
So I'm assuming that the area on the Metcalfe side where the reception is poor, that may be one of the areas that they'll look at in Wardsville as well.
That could be. So, the details aren't on my head right now, but there's the date of January 1st where they have to provide us with something, and then after that date, that's when staff will be looking at where those areas will be, but there won't be anything sent to SWIFT until it's seen by county council. So that'll be the time to make sure that those areas are looked at. But if you do have any thoughts, get a hold of Morgan Calvert, the manager of IT.
Morgan Calvert,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions on that? Yes. Okay. Item number 10 is from the AMCTO, and it's the Executive Diploma in Municipal Management. Congratulations, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Item number 11 is from the Assault Bayfield Conservation, and it's the minutes of September and October. Item number 12 is from the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority, and it's the conservation update for November. And the last one is from Blue Water Recycling Association, and it's their update. There's no questions on the correspondence. The motion here to resolve the council received and file correspondence items CC1 to CC13. Councilor Sanders and Councilor Hendricks, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll jump into our delegation for our financial statements.
Thank you very much. I believe everyone has a copy of our draft financial statements for your review. So I'll go through and hit some what I consider to be some of the highlights. By all means, if there's any questions or something that I haven't addressed as we go through, feel free to stop me along the way or ask at the end, whatever you feel more comfortable with. So I think we'll go to our page 1 on our financial statements, which is the actual auditor's report. So this would be what we would consider a clean audit opinion. So that's the one you're looking for. We didn't have any issues or concerns. So in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the statement of financial position of the Corporation of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe as of December 31st, 2016, and the statement of operations and accumulated surplus, changes in net financial assets and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for public sector entities. If approved, that will be dated tonight, with tonight's date on. Our next page is our statement of financial position. So again, these are as of December 31st, 2016 with comparables for 2015. When we look at the cash, you can see that cash has decreased almost in half from the previous year, but that money was turned around and invested, put in investments to earn some interest. You can see that has gone up from 100 to roughly 2.1 million. Taxes receivable is down slightly from the previous year, and more importantly, your over 3 year is also continuing to fall from 11% down to 6.7. So that's positive. Accounts receivable, and you'll see in a couple of three different spots actually in the financial statements where we had that money that came through for the road repairs in 2015. So in accounts receivable, there was a significant amount of those receivables related to that particular event because it was done very close to the year end. Also included in this year's balance, roughly half of it is HST refundable amounts. So total financial assets of $5,932,000. Financial statement liabilities, so accounts payables and accrued liabilities. Again, large decrease over the previous year relating to that road repair that $406,000 is very comparable to 2014's numbers. Deferred revenues, so that's items such as gas tax, parklands, those type of what you would consider reserve funds. We now have to refer to them as deferred revenue, and the increase year over year is specifically relating to your gas tax. No new debt issued on the year, so our long-term debt from 423 down to 404. And the landfill closure liability, so that's our best guess projected into the future when those landfills are full, the cost of basically maintaining them after their full life. There was a study done in 2016, updating all the assumptions in that report. Maybe because of I guess interest rate discounts rates had changed slightly, so that actually brought our liability, our estimated liability, down based on the most recent information. So that report was issued in late September. One of the reasons why we're a little bit later getting into financial statements this year. So that's been updated and very positive news as well, because we've got a reduction in the estimated liability from 225 down to 186. So total financial liabilities of 1.465. So your net financial assets up about 400,000 from the previous year of up to 4.467. Now our non-financial assets, so that's your basically what you might consider your fixed assets or hard assets, roads, equipment, land, buildings, from 17.2 million up to 17.4. We had $956,000 of additions in the year, and we had, you'll see, we had $759,000 worth of amortization. So one of the concepts behind bringing tangible capital assets onto the financial statements was to help council look at, on an annual basis, how much of those assets are being used up, and then hopefully that you're at a minimum replacing what's being used. So in this particular case, you were a couple $100,000 higher on replacement than what our best guess of the use of those assets was for 2016. So 17 million with the non-financial assets, bringing us to the accumulated surplus of 21,928,000. And when we get to note 7, that's a really good note to look at from a council standpoint, because that helps break down that surplus in the accounts that you're a little bit more used to using when it comes to budget and your day-to-day looking at the financials. Our next page is the statement of operations. So we do have also included here the budget numbers, and those budget numbers have been adjusted for any, so for PSAP purposes we do include amortization, and we back out any reserve transfers out of the funding process. So that budget number has been adjusted. You'll see note 13 for those adjustments from what you had originally approved, and that's been pretty standard for a number of years now, adjusting the budget, so the actuals are more comparable. Again, most of our budget to actual numbers are fairly close year over year. When we look at user charges down from the previous year, that mostly related to building permits. Obviously 15 we had a number of building permits issued. On the local improvement levy side, so all of your municipal drain collections would flow through that account, so it's going to obviously move up and down as a demand for those drains to be repaired moves up and down. The other column on the other revenue for 2015, that's again where we have the windmill road repair revenues being placed in 2015. When we look through the expenditures, reasonably comparable year over year. Transportation, we were a little bit under on some of our expectations for repairs and maintenance on hardtop and loose top. 2015, we had the large, again, those road repairs. So as you see, that's kind of flowed through the statements a number of different spots in 2015 compared to 2016. I think when we look to some of our other expenditures, the other large one that stands out is again under agriculture, and this is where the expenditures for those drains flow through. So that's why you're seeing such a significant increase over what was budgeted for. We don't budget for drain repairs, that is a benefiting landowner and a flow through for the financial statements. So total annual surplus then of 602. Again, those numbers do include the amortization of 750,000. And that brings us our year-over-year surplus up to 21,928,000. Our next page is the continuity of the net financial assets. So we take that surplus of 602, we subtract off, kind of convert it into a more of a cash flow basis. So we did spend 988,000 on additions, 759,000 get added back for amortization, leaving us a net financial asset increase of 375,000. The next page is the statement of cash flows, which encompasses the full financial statements as opposed to the net financial assets. Very similar. You can see that we did invest in the short-term assets, using some of our cash for those interest-bearing items. It's really one of the main differences year over year. So that's showing why our cash is moving down from 4.4 down to 2.3. We then get into the notes of the financial statements. Not too many changes to the accounting policies. They encompass the first 5 pages. So I think if we roll all the way forward to our page 10, which is notes 2 and 3. Note 2, we just again speak to the interest rates that those certificates have been invested at and the maturity dates. And then under that deferred revenue, we got, as I said, the main increase there being related to the gas tax. Our next page, our note 4, does explain the liabilities and the various estimates on the landfill. As I've mentioned, those have been updated for 2016, and that'll be good for a 3-year period.
On the Metcalfe site, there's just a dollar sign but no number. Is that an error or?
No, I think that was the post-closure costs on that one. I think they're estimated to be different because and it's actually a little off, I can't remember at the moment, but it's a little bit different formatted landfill site, is it not? I think there isn't the same requirements for that site as there is for the other one.
So basically there's $0 there.
Right.
Okay. I just thought it shifted.
I will confirm before I release the finals that there shouldn't be a number there, but I believe that site is a different, they look at it in a different way.
Okay, thanks.
But I will confirm that for you. We go to note 5. So this is our tangible capital assets, their original costs. So you can see there's close to $2.7 million worth of original costs for those assets. And our best guess to date is that we have used 9.8 million of those assets up, so 159,000 in a year, leaving us with a net of 17,435,000. The next page is just similar information, but for the year before. I won't go over that. Our page 14, note 6, our net long-term liabilities. As I mentioned, there was no new liabilities on the year. We do back out the tile drain loans that are assumed on behalf of individuals that have taken on those loans, the ministry provided loans. So that leaves us with a net of the 404, which is all user charge based debt, no tax based debt there. Okay, note 7. So this is what I'll call the important one for as far as explaining that accumulated surplus. So this is broken down into its various components. So the operating surplus was due from benefiting landowners, what we've invested in tangible capital assets, and what we have in reserves. So that totals the 22.5 million, less our liabilities for land closure and debt, bringing us to the net accumulated surplus of the 21,928,000. So when looking at that surplus, and you don't have 21 million to spend, you've already spent 17.4 of it directly on assets. So and those assets are just being depreciated over time. If we go on to page 16, our notes 8, 9, and 10, just breaking down the pension liabilities and for owners, whether there's uncontributed, we have a deficit, I guess, overall there, 5.7 billion, which is being funded back over time. As you can imagine, with this last year of fairly good investment returns, I suspect that deficit will significantly decrease. We get to our page 17, notes 12, just breaking down those expenditures into their various categories, similar to what you would see on the FIR. Our note 13, page 18, so this is where I mentioned that we do adjust your approved budget to put it in the format of PSAB, backing out the surplus carried forwards as well as any reserve transfers, and then adding in our depreciation. And then basically the last two pages, segmented information. So again, similar information to what you would see on the FIR, just breaking it down by its departmental categories for revenues and expenditures. Those are the highlights of the financial statements that I wanted to hit on. I'm more than happy to take any questions further if there are any.
Okay. Is there any questions at all about the financial statements?
Just a general question, opinion on the financial strength of the municipality.
So I guess there's a few indicators that you would generally look at. I guess for when you look at financial health, we would look at our tax funded debt. So in this particular case, you have zero debt in that regard, so that would show financial health. We would also look at your whether you have net financial assets or debt. There are a number of municipalities that are actually their financial liabilities exceed their financial debt or their financial assets. Sorry. So again, that would show a positive health. You're at 4.4 million for the size of your balance sheet. That is a positive note as well. I think the other item that you would look at is, and some people look at, is your reserves versus your total revenues. So what portion of your year could you fund from reserves if you had to, for whatever reason, you couldn't raise any taxes, as an example. And again, your reserve funds are very close to being able to fund a full year of tax revenues. So again, that shows that you have some financial health in regard to, or flexibility, if something was to come up. Reserves are there to help with one-time expenditures and things that are out of the ordinary. And I would say again, you have a nice base there built up to absorb certain unknowns that may arise in the future. So, when we look at those various categories, it would show that overall, I would say it's in a positive health.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions? Councilor McGinnon? No. Okay, I thought you were looking for.
No, I was just looking at a figure here.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I've also included tonight what we call our audit findings letter. So that's a comment on The internal controls of the municipality, we would test those on an annual basis to make sure everything is functioning as documented or as we would expect. You'll see that audit findings letter is what we would call a clean letter. There isn't any concerns or highlights that we wanted to bring to council's attention, that all internal controls were functioning as expected for 2016. Thank you, Josh.
And with that, we do have a motion with regards to that.
Just one
Okay.
question overall. So next year, we can expect the financial statements to be a little earlier?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, we were basically ready in September, except for this, the land closure report hadn't got to us yet at that point. So we were delayed in waiting for that report, but we could have come to council probably in late September, early October, if it wasn't for that report.
Thank you.
And that's a 3-year thing, so we don't have to wait for that next year.
And that is approximately when we received the reports in previous years, right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I got the report. I thought this was later than normal, and it all makes sense with the way the bill said, so. Excellent. So we have a motion that council will hopefully move and second and approve. It's resolved that council received the 2016 financial statements as presented by Graham Scott Ends LLP, that the mayor be directed to sign the audit findings on behalf of the township of Adelaide Metcalfe, and that the CAO treasurer be authorized to sign the management representative letter. Councilor Hannon and Councilor Hendricks, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you very much.
And as I always say, when you go home tonight and you're reading them over again and you have any questions, feel free tomorrow to contact me. I'll be more than happy to help you.
Okay, sounds good.
Robert, did you get the package that was in your desk? Okay, perfect, good.
Okay, take care.
Bye now.
Okay, so we'll jump into staff reports, and the first one's from our clerk, and it's regarding the accessibility policy. Jennifer?
Thank you, Mayors. So back in July 2016, there was an update to the Accessibility Act, the Integrated Accessibility Standards Regulation, Ontario Reg 119, 111. And municipalities across Ontario were obligated to update their accessibility policy to be in compliance by the end of this year of 2017. So in order for Adelaide Metcalfe to be compliant for the end of this year's reporting that needs to be submitted, there's some changes that we need to make to our current policy. And attached is a draft of that accessibility policy. In order to meet the needs of people with disabilities, the township will ensure policies, practices, and procedures address dignity, independence, integration, and provide for equal opportunity for people with disabilities. Allow people with disabilities to use their own personal assistive devices to obtain, use, or benefit from the services offered by the township. Accommodate the accessibility needs of people with disabilities to ensure they can obtain, use, or benefit from the county's goods, services, programs, and facilities. Communicate with people with disabilities in a manner that takes into account the person's disability. So part of that procedure, where disability is defined by the Ontario Human Rights Code, a service animal for the purposes of this policy. An animal is a service animal for a person with a disability if the animal can be readily identified as one that is being used by the person for reasons relating to the person's disability. As a result of visual indicators such as the vest or harness worn by the animal, or the person provides documentation from one of the following regulated health professionals confirming that the name requires the animal for reasons relating to the disability. And previously, it used to have a letter coming from a nurse or a doctor, and what they've done is they've extended that list to what's there for audiologists, chiropractors, nurses, occupational therapists, optometrists, physicians and surgeons, physiotherapists, psychologists, thank you, registered physiotherapists, and registered mental health therapists. They also give a definition for what a guide dog is, And then moving further into the document, there's feedback from anyone who has feedback. They can provide feedback back to the municipality for temporary service disruptions. If for a support person, the municipality will allow people with disabilities to be accompanied by a support person in all municipally owned and operated public facilities. And again, going back to service animals, that an individual accompanied by a service animal is permitted to enter the premises. The use of assistive devices, that the municipality will allow people with disabilities to use their own personal assistive devices to obtain services offered by the municipality. And then there's a training requirement that the municipality has to be compliant in for the end of the year. And it will include all council and staff to have training regarding this particular policy by the end of this year. So once we approve this policy, the next step will be procedures will next come to council for council approval, at which time I'm hoping a 2-day training event. So if one person can't come the one day, then maybe they could perhaps come another day that will be designated. This also pertains to our website, that it become compliant. We have till 2021 for our website to be totally compliant. And right now, my recommendation to council is that council receive and file the policy as presented. Sorry, to be approved as presented by myself. Sorry.
We'll get it done by the end of the year, so.
File it again.
Councilor Hendricks.
We were at the fire station and got some training from Eldon with respect to the disabilities. Is that part of the training that we need, or is there more?
I don't know what it is that you took, so I could talk with Aaron and find out if it's the same.
It was the accommodation.
Yeah, it was just the accommodations.
Okay.
I
I'll
think
talk
what
to
you're, I
I'll
think
talk
what
to
you're
him.
referring to is different.
a little bit different.
And there is accessibility training for first responders as well,
Yes.
which is an online.
I have an online module that was given to me by Jen Cowan, who's the accessibility coordinator with County Middlesex. So I can use that as for our training for staff and council.
Is there any other questions regarding the policy? Deputy Mayor Stockman?
I think the policy leaves enough open-ended wording in it that, you know, we're gonna try to do our best, but we're not tying ourselves down to saying we will. We'll try our best to make sure that we accommodate as best we can. And on your cover sheet, it says there are financial implications.
Yes.
Should that be there are no financial implications?
Well, there are financial implications. Staff and council are required to attend training, so that will have to happen during work hours. So it'll take time away from someone doing their job to come in and actually sit and do a one-day training session.
Oh, okay.
So not major financial implications, but it will still affect day-to-day jobs.
And then also just with that, as well as our website, when it needs to be updated, that will cost funds as well.
True, yes,
Not immediately, but
that's right.
Okay.
And as well, providing alternate formats of information. If we had to go out and someone requested a different format, we'd have to source that out, so we may end up having to provide it in a different format, find an avenue to get it to them.
is there any other questions? Okay, so we have the recommendation there to resolve the accessibility policy be approved as presented by the clerk. Deputy Mayor Stockman and Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. To be Jennifer.
I do not think you.
Is there any questions at all for Jennifer? Seeing none, motion to resolve the council accepts the report of the clerk as presented. Councillor Sanders and Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Our next few reports are from our CAO Treasurer, Kathy.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. The first item is the accounts or payable approval listing for the period October 13th to November 2nd, 2017, in the amount of $629,359.06.
Any questions on the accounts? Deputy Stockman?
I hope we get enough out of Mac one when we sell it to cover all the repairs.
I said to myself, I'm never gonna ask about a Mac.
Kinda had the same feeling when I saw that again.
Mac.
Well, it should be worth more now that we've got all the repairs in it.
I think our capital outlay for it is more than our depreciation on it or our amortization.
Either that or we keep the darn thing around.
What I think Deputy Stockman's saying is we won't see map one in the expensive building for the rest of the year, no? Is there any other questions at all?
I had one, that was regarding streets on the railway tracks, but apparently there was more than one track involved, the inspection.
Yes, there's 3 crossings that they inspected.
Right.
Yes.
Cause I was thinking to myself, one?
No, that was all 3.
Good. That's the one I spotted. I spotted the Mac too. Okay, that's all I have.
And Kathy, just with that report, is that going to help going forward? We had that one inquiry every year about the train whistling going on. Is
Yes,
that going to help
we haven't
that?
got the physical copy of the report yet, but it is on its way, so once it's reviewed, we'll see if there's any implications or anything that will assist in that issue.
Okay. Is there any other questions on the accounts? Motion to approve the accounts, resolve that the accounts listing for the period October 13th to November 2nd, 2017 in the amount of $629,359.06 be approved. Councilor Hendricks and Councilor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Item number 2 is a report on the municipal auditor. We had Mr. Foster here tonight from Graham Scott Enns. They have been providing our municipal audit for a number of years. Previous to Graham Scott Enns, they were Raven and a couple of other iterations of the company. They have, our last bylaw was approved and appointed the auditors up to the end of 2016. So we do need an appointment for audit services for 2017 and 2018. And we are again requesting council waive the requirement for the competitive process for the audit services and appoint Graham Scott Enns as our auditors for 2017 and 2018. And they did request, I didn't think he'd have it in quite so quickly, but he did provide a financial amount, and for the core audit for 2017 it'll be $15,000, and for 2018 it's $15,550. Where you see the additional fees, it's for the filing of the financial information return each year, and they estimate that the cost for staff to work on it is between $110 to $125 per hour. It's not increasing significantly for 2017 or 2018 if council chooses to reappoint them. Otherwise, we can get a request for proposal ready and have it sent around.
Councilor Sanders?
How many years have they done this?
They have been here since before amalgamation. Don Lemon started before amalgamation. He's no longer with this, but Graham Scott Enns, they've had continuity of staff for many years.
No, next question. 2011, 30,000.
Yes.
2012, 32, 19, 17, 18. And now we're estimated, 2016 was estimated at 19?
Yeah, there was a little more changes to the FIR this year that we had to go through and get some information moved over for the FIR. And we also had to do our audit of the landfills. So that added a little bit more for this year.
So we're happy with it, why would we,
Very happy
why
with it.
would we change?
Exactly.
No, I move that we continue on with,
Okay, so the recommendation is moved by Councillor Sanders and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stockman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Item number 3 is the 2018 St. Clair Conservation Draft Budget. It's been circulated. We are going to see an increase of $1,928 over the 2017 levy, but that's to be expected with the increase in the assessment year over year. They would like any comments or questions back by November the 24th.
It isn't gonna change anything.
So motion to resolve that council receive the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority 2018 draft budget.
So moved.
Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Item number 4 is in regards to the fiscal impact of Bill 148. There's been some discussion through AMO and through other municipal organizations in regards to what the impact of Bill 148 is going to be on small municipalities, should it be approved in the wording that it is today. Section 21.4, it calls for minimum pay for being on call, and it states that an employer shall pay an employee wages equal to the employee's regular rate for 3 hours of work if the employee is on call and the employee is not required to work or is required to work but works less than 3 hours despite being available to work longer. There is a considerable concern on what this impact is on our volunteer firefighters. They are available every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if we have to, small municipalities in general have to start paying them for being on call, it can add a significant amount to our budgets.
we don't know.
No, so this is just to bring it up to council for their information. There was a call earlier this week from AMO to talk to your MPPs about the estimated costs. I did take advantage on Friday and submit a report to the standing committee, so they're aware of what the implication of that alone is going to be in the township, let alone what it's going to affect for our regular employees and what we may have to end up paying for them for on-call service. And we're just asking for support for the 2 recommendations. One is the resolution that was circulating from the township of Montague, just to support it so we can send it on to AMO and the province, and also just to support, to let Montague know that we've supported their resolution.
Councillor Levy?
I just wondered if Aaron had anything to add to this.
Chief Marov?
Yes, so this, it's not only AMO that's, talking just for lack of better words. So the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs has put another copy of that. They have a position on this as well, and they've talked to the minister about it. And so it's just another organization that's working on municipalities' behalf, because out of the 460 fire departments in the province, there's only 23 that are career fire departments. The rest are all volunteer. So we're not alone. The bulk of the province is affected by this. So it is being supported, or we are being supported by the LAFC.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we have our Deputy Mayor Stockman.
Should, like it says here, send it to Ms. Wynn and to the Labor Minister. Should it also copy go to Monty McNaughton?
That's all right.
So we'll add that under the bottom line there. Is there anything else? Okay, so mover and seconder for that recommendation. Deputy Mayor Stockman and Councillor Kubrick. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Oh, you goes together? Oh, there it
Two
is.
separate,
Oh, you want to separate?
yeah, that's
Okay.
separate, to go back to the township of Montague.
Okay, and the other one, which is the support of the resolution from the Township of Montague. Councillor Sanders and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Sorry, I'm confused.
That's my mistake.
That's all good.
Sorry.
Item number 6.
Right.
Item number 6 is a petition for drainage work by owners, and it is for lot 17, possession 5, SCR. And they're requesting that the petition be approved and sent on as soon as possible.
Okay, so the recommendation there, we have a mover and a seconder for that. Jeff Tickner Stockman, is that moved or a question?
Both.
Okay,
We've already issued the building permit, so streets better get working on it.
Where this is not where the building is going. It's going to be, they're doing some other minor work for this first. Same property, they're just doing some different locates for it, so.
I was under the impression it was underneath the building.
It will eventually, but not the immediate one.
Oh, okay.
any other questions?
Who pays for this? We do.
It'll be assessed out to the owners by the
On that
engineer.
drain.
Yes. The engineer will determine who is responsible for what portions.
This is very similar to moving the drain on a wind turbine.
Yes.
Probably.
Likely the property owner who is requesting it will pay the lion's share of the drain cost because
Should be.
it's not of any benefit
Right.
for that portion. There may be some repairs and some upgrades to the pipe itself, which may be allocated back to upstream landowners. But
And she
the
should
engineer
know
will,
Yeah.
the engineer will determine.
Yep.
It'd be the same as Dave Powell.
Yep. No problem.
Okay, so that was moved by Deputy Stockman and seconded by Councilor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything else, Kath?
I do have one other thing. On November 20th, I wondered if council would consider starting at 6:30 that evening. Planner Christy Camp will have a report available on the interim control bylaw and issued in Strathroy-Caradoc. She is slated to be here that evening anyway at 7:15 and 7:30 for planning applications. And I wondered if we could start at 6:30 to accommodate her report and then move into the planning applications after that.
Fine with me.
Are you wanting a
A
motion for that?
resolution to start at 6:30 p.m.
And moved by Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Councilor Hendricks. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. That's what we got.
Don't forget, driver,
No.
6:30.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Or do you want a copy?
So the motion was, resolve the council support the recommendation of the CAO treasurer for the next regular meeting to be held on Monday, November 20th, 2017, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Kind of jumped the gun on that one. Is that everything,
I
Kathy?
think that's everything.
Okay, is there any questions at all for Kathy? Seeing none, so we need a motion to resolve that the council accepts the report of the CAO treasurer as presented. Deputy Stockman and Councilor Hendricks, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, our next report is from our Public Works Manager, Jeff.
Okay, and I think everybody's got the hard copy came through. This is on a replacement for the roof over here at the Adelaide garage. You can attest over the last week firsthand, it is leaking. So we put a tender out and it came back today. And that's why it's on the hard copy you got it. So Basically, we've asked for two separate quotes, one for shingles and one for steel. And we got one company bid both ways. And both ways came back more than what was estimated in the springtime. So we've got the two different applications. I recommend that we move ahead with the steel roof for $25,168. I think it's an investment in the building for long term. Whatever application that building proves to be, it's an investment in the building. Noted that my predecessor also recommended a steel roof in his notes that he left me.
Is there any questions or comments? Councilor McCann?
Jeff, how many tenders did you send out?
We sent three
Three?
physically out, and then we also posted it
On the website.
on the website, so
Just
that
got the one.
we just got the one, yes.
Councilor Sanders?
Question, Jeff. So we got 10,000, I'm gonna go to the end, 11,367, 28. I could put 2.5 fiberglass shingle roofs on there today. How long is a fiberglass shingle roof gonna last?
Well, they call them lifetime, but.
They're not lifetime, but are they gonna last 15 years?
They'll probably do 15 years, you know. They're giving us a warranty of 20 and 20. So meaning that after 20 years it's prorated.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I
never
would
mind,
look
that's
after
fine.
that. So anything below 20, I think you can comfortably look at shingles.
Okay, that's 40 years, steel will probably last 40 years. My next question is, we're talking about maybe someday this is gonna change, that's gonna move. Are we gonna spend an extra, 15 or 18,000 on this building if we might only be here 5 years or 10 years, or even 15? Then we might be somewhere else with our shed. So is it wise to spend the extra now? Because to me, I would put a fiberglass roof on tomorrow. I wouldn't even think of a steel roof, but that's just my opinion.
Go ahead.
My opinion is that the steel roof, whether we have the building or we sell the building or whatever we do with it in the future, I think the steel roof adds the value to the building, in my opinion. That would be
Okay.
Deputy Stockton?
I can see Jeff's point, but to attend to agree with Gerald. And I'm also a bit uncomfortable with the fact we only received one tender back. There are, a number of firms in the municipality that do, construction, roofing, and stuff like that. I'm disappointed that we didn't get any more tenders. So I'd be hesitant to go with the steel roof based strictly on one tender, or one response, let's put it that way. Then I would lean more towards the fiberglass, but even then, with only one response, I don't have anything to compare it to.
Councilor Hendricks or McKinnon, any comments, thoughts?
I tend to agree with Jeff. I look at it as an investment in the building that we should be able to recoup if we were to change locations or sell. And just from my own personal experience, I know the asphalt or fiberglass shingles do not last what they're saying they are because of the weather we're having. And I think that the steel roof is a better investment in the long run.
Yeah, I would normally agree that steel is better, but fiberglass and asphalt are two totally different shingles. Fiberglass, fiberglass shingles are what's, the only place I know for sure that they're on is on the church hall at the Catholic Church in Strathroy, and they look as good as when they were put up there 15 years ago. So, is it 15? Feels like it. Yeah, they've been there quite a while. Like, normally I'd say go with steel, but I do know that fiberglass is a far better product than asphalt. I wouldn't put asphalt. You couldn't pay me to put asphalt shingles on. So, but yeah, I agree. The one tender seems. I know the builders are really busy, but usually municipal projects get some attention.
I think given the time of the year that we've sent it out, they've had a lot of business that they've been able to get lined up, and that's why we're not seeing, I hope that's why we're not seeing as many tenders come back as what we would normally wish for. So, and you're saying it's leaking now, so the decision should be made or it just gets worse.
Very shingles missing.
Well, I find it a huge, huge difference. But
Just for information, Kathy, if we were to go back to tender, what would that process be and how does that work?
Well, we would just put it out again and everyone would know what the prices are that we've already looked at, so that would be considered.
yeah, are we gonna do this before winter or are we gonna wait till spring? Or are we gonna get a couple of $5 bills
When
and
the
put it in the shed?
tender, the tender went out as being completed for this year, so being
Okay.
completed
It had to
before
be
the,
done.
yes.
Yes.
Well, you haven't got a whole lot of time left to be tender.
No, and that's one of the issues.
The tender was to have it done and it was a continuous job, so the day they started, they weren't to leave and come back, they had to get the job done with so many days after they started, so.
All those shingles are gonna come off and then the steel, or are you gonna strap it and put steel on top?
No, removal of the existing roof, and put the new roof on. And just, everything's included in that.
And then with the fiberglass shingles, all the roof comes off, the new ones go on.
Go on,
Say,
correct.
okay. Well, I'm still going for the fiberglass and we can decide tonight because if we're gonna get it done this year, we gotta, you know, we can't keep on tendering, we gotta make up our mind. Either it's gonna be steel or fiberglass. I'm going for the fiberglass, but
So is that a motion?
you want me to make that a motion?
I need somebody to make a
I'm
motion.
motion, I'm going with the fiberglass.
And a seconder. Deputy Stockman. Any further discussion? No? Okay, so that motion was resolved that council accepts the tender amount of $11,376.17, including HST from Encore Roofing as submitted for the replacement of the garage roof at the Alley Public Works Yard. And that's moved by Councilor Sanders, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
50% of the budget.
Yeah, no, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of things have been after the next 20 years. It's really,
Any questions at all for Jeff?
yeah, I do.
Yes.
It started me a little slow, I won't even wave at the farmer.
Oh.
Standing along the road there visiting. At least you can say, hello, Mr. Sanders, how are you, or Councilor Sanders?
I saw you go by at the road. I'm not quick enough, I gotta know.
I must say, you did a beautiful job. Boy, that thing works nice.
Doesn't that work?
Wow.
Yeah. I'll have to give
On grade.
Eldon credit, he saw it years ago. And, he swore up and down that this was a way to put ditches in there.
If I look at it 5 years ago, they did that, and they never got it completed. All the way along that road, Jamie did most of the work, or all the guys did, Alan wasn't there that much because he's too busy. And if I look at the time, the grader and the men that they spent, this guy comes along one day, the next day he's gone. All on grade, that deep or this deep. The dirt spread 30 feet in the field.
Oh, this is what, a spinner?
Oh,
Is that what they did in front of Stuart Brown's too?
Yeah,
yeah, and then the butt line it in a bunch. Wow.
I think the key is landowner, you have to work with the landowners, because the dirt does go on the
It
private
goes in the
property.
field.
So as long as the landowner is comfortable with what's going on, it works really well.
Yeah, beautiful job. You put the colors in today.
Yeah.
I was talking to what's his name, he came back with the old Mac. I had asked him a few questions. And but beautiful.
If you can get a wide open stretch like we did in the certain spots, they can really knock it off.
Oh. Yeah. That's all I have. You're doing okay.
Deputy Stockman?
Just a couple of things that I had. Number one, when they were working on the wall at Mullaferry, I would go and take a look every day. And one day I was there, and Bill was delivering some stone, and he come over and he says, "I don't know what council did, but you guys picked a super good guy as the road super."
That's
So,
exactly what
that was a real positive.
Curtis said the same thing.
He said the guys were really happy.
Yeah.
So that's very positive. One thing with the road closure, either people can't read, don't understand what they read, or it doesn't apply to them. Because there was so many people, even with active construction, they didn't go through with active construction, but they would come down and they would turn around and they would be pissed off because they'd leave black marks and, you know, they were ready 5 minutes late. Well, now they were gonna be 10 minutes late. After active construction stopped last week, a week ago Friday, basically, I won't say it was open season, but people were going through. And neighbors were going through. A lot of vehicles I don't know, but I know a number of vehicles and I know the people in them, and they were going through, and I was just shaking my head. Because ultimately, sure, they have no insurance when they go through on a closed road. But ultimately, it all comes back to the construction company and to the township if something were to happen. Because I went down usually every evening, and there was a couple of evenings I went down and I ended up resetting up the pylons, because one day highway tractor with a flatbed trailer with a beaver tail with a packer on it. I'm thinking it was a rental company, but I can't say for sure because I didn't catch what was on the. It went flying through. When I went through there that evening, the flasher was laying on the ground. There was 4 or 5 pylons all over the place. So no, maybe it's because I was at the end, but.
It certainly, you know, obviously it is quite a thing. A different example, we did Robotham in the culvert, Bridge Carver there, and while we were working there, we would leave a pile of gravel in the middle of the road. Well barricaded, well lit up, to let people, so people cannot get through there. Now, had the bridge, we basically had the road out.
Yeah.
So we couldn't take a chance of anybody going around the barrel. There's jersey, there's concrete barriers you can put in place. In that case, and I think you would understand this, if there ever was an emergency and we needed to get something through, it's nice to be able to get those emergency crews through. So to put concrete out and cut off the emergency crews, you gotta weigh that. When it comes down to it. But you're right, people don't listen to the signs. And you're right, there's no insurance once you go past that red dot. The red dot is the one that really, your insurance no longer covers you, so. But at the same time, if at any time, if you want me, like, the contractor was working much later than we were here, so I was assuming that, all the signs were there, that when they left, they were putting the barrels out.
And they did, but, people would go through later on. And, not when there was active construction going on,
No.
because they had, either the hi-ho or the wheel loader parked in such a manner that people couldn't get through. But once active construction stopped, then, they were zigzagging through. And, maybe I shouldn't get so upset about it.
On Robotham, you were less likely to have a tractor and wagons or trucks full of corn risk going.
Well, that's true, that's what we're talking about
And
too.
it was just an unfortunate coincidence that the 3 days that the whole neighborhood was taken off corn were the 3 days the road was closed. But because it happens to be a route for 3 or 4 different neighbors, but they all got to meet you apparently, so it's not a bad thing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and my Friday egg trucker, he says, "You never told me Robotham was closed." I said, "Well, I didn't know that you go there," but he had to pick up the last of Jamie's of eggs because, and Jamie's hens went out and the trucks had to come in from a different way, so they ended up going a little bit more over the corner of the roadway, but hey, that is the way it is.
That's how it works. I was dumb enough to turn around and go all the way back to Stratford and get to the arena. But drive 22, I thought about it, I should have known. It's gonna be closed, and I come to the corner, what the? Oh, turn around, go back. There's somebody right behind me is gonna do the same thing, so you might as well turn around. I forgot all about it.
But, no, it looks good now, but, and from what you've been telling me, it should soon be
Yes.
good.
So is the road open
Oh,
now?
yeah, it's open this morning.
But I might wanna go to the arena tomorrow night, and that's the route I always take.
There we go. Okay, is there any other questions at all for Jeff? No. Okay, so we know a motion to resolve the council accepts the report of the public works manager as presented. Deputy Mayor Stockman and Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Staff reports, but is there anything at all for you to report on, or any questions at all for the fire chief? No? Okay, anything for other business at all? Councilor Kinnon?
2 things. I wondered if we had set Alvin's retirement function date yet.
Not yet.
Alvin's, I was talking to him at the Remembrance Day, and he said any day's fine with him, so.
Narrows it down.
No.
Except when I asked him, he said, well, this day would be better than this one, so. We're working on it though.
And a rec meeting.
Yes, I'm just trying to get some stuff put back together so we can get on with that project.
Anything else? Next we have our bylaws. So resolved that 3 readings be given to bylaw number 44, 2017, confirm council proceedings, and that the bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal be attached. Councilor McKinnon and Deputy Mayor Stockman, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And if there is nothing else, a motion to resolve the meeting be adjourned at 8:09 p.m. Councilor Hendricks and Deputy Mayor Stockman, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried.